Your initial interest in music, did that come through your family in any way?
A little bit. My mother, everyone in my family is musical in some way, but they never really pursued it. But my mother did a lot of musicals and plays, and she played the piano, and it's not like it was anything similar to what kind of music I do now, but it did at an early age kind of make music a part of my life, and so I think it probably was an influence.
Now, I believe your very first recording session was in one of those do-it-yourself booths.
It's true, it was. It was on the beach in a little "You Can Be a Star" booth, and I was a really, really shy girl, but my boyfriend and I thought, well, we could go in there and make this little tape, and it would be silly, but it would at least kind of have something on tape so that we, could play it for his band, and I wouldn't have to be so nervous in that first audition, They would at least have some idea.
Do you still have the recording?
I do have it. I need to make another copy of it because I'm sure it's going to start to deteriorate pretty soon, but I do still have it.
Any chance it might turn up as a bonus track on a CD one day?
Oh, never. It's terrible. It's just for my own amusement.
Tell us about that early band you're in, the Fireballs. Was that purely for fun, or were you already harbouring ambitions at that stage?
Oh, we were, trying to make a real serious go of it. We were a rockabilly band, so, that kind of put some limitations on you, but we were also writing original songs, and they were coming out, not real rockabilly. So it was an interesting kind of alternative rockabilly. It's probably, if that scene was going on today, that's probably what they'd call it,
Mm-hmm.
We were doing our best to play the scene in the D.C. area. There weren't a whole lot of places to play, though, so that's kind of what motivated us to move down here to Austin.
How did your first deal with MCA come about?
Well, I'd been playing around Austin for a couple of years, and I did several showcases where the MCA people came out, but one reason I know that Tony Brown came out to see me was Nancy Griffith had heard me one evening in a bar somewhere, and he was in town, and she called him up and tried to get him to come down, but we were playing our last song, I think, by the time she called him, and so next time we invited him to come to a showcase, he remembered Nancy recommending me, so he came out because of that, and after a matter of time, he signed us. So.
I think that the two major labels you were with originally knew enough about your music to know how to promote it properly, in hindsight?
Probably not, but I think that we were all kind of learning the ropes as far as my career went. I didn't have a real strong, clear vision. I was only 20 years old, and I'd been playing music since I was 17, so, I didn't really have myself together in that regard. And I think we were all kind of just kind of poking around and trying to figure out what would work and how to, they were trying to figure out how to market me, and I was trying to figure out what kind of music I wanted to play, and so it was a little complicated.
A bit unsettling.
Yeah.
Did you feel you had enough control over the direction of those early records?
The first record I did, because the first record was just a pure band record. And the second two records, I started to lose a little control, but partially it was because I wasn't assertive enough, I just hate to point the blame on anybody. I feel like I needed more time. The only place that I lost control was that I needed more time to develop an album, and they wanted albums pretty quickly. So the Bang Bang record came out a little too fast for me. It was 9 months later, and I wasn't quite ready for that one. And I took 2 years before I put out the one that's self-titled, and I feel much better about that one.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I think I just wanted to be more creative and take a little more time, and they wanted me to be faster about it. So
I guess your situation now with Rykodisc would be a lot more satisfying to you?
Yeah, so far it's been wonderful. I made this record before I signed with them, and So they knew exactly what they were getting out of me, but I've never been through the process of making a record while on the label. So I'm not sure how that will play out, but I get a really good feeling about it. I think it will be fine.
You just mentioned how one album was, you felt a bit rushed getting the Bang Bang record out. And I guess with this one, without the record company hanging over you, you had that luxury of time to get it prepared, didn't you?
That's true. I had a little more time than I actually needed. I had about 5 or 6 years, really. So I didn't want to take that long, but that's just the way it worked out. And I'm glad it worked out that way, because I'm sure it would have been a slightly different record if I'd had it a little bit earlier. And I'm really happy with this record the way it is. I think it was an important record for me.
Is there any concern that next time around that you may have to readapt again to working to a deadline with a company?
Yeah, I am a little nervous about that, because I did have all the time in the world to develop that last record, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I do feel strongly that if I feel like the record's not right, then I'll just take more time until I feel like it's right. You know. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that won't make anyone too upset. But one thing I've learned is to put my foot down. You know, and that's what I'll do if I have to.
Is there any chance of those old deleted records reappearing with Rykodisc? Are they looking at taking them up at all?
You know, we talked about it a little bit. I do know that MCA is planning on putting a compilation record together with songs culled from all 3 records. And I don't know when that will happen, but I'm glad at least that some of that material will get back out there. And but, you know, Ryko is also I did an EP that I released only here in Texas when I was on A&M Records for a short while, and they've been talking about re-releasing that, which I'd be ecstatic about, because Sunbolt was my band on 3 of the songs, and another band called 16 Horsepower was on one of them, so I hope that happens.
Tell us about the process of shopping this last album around to the record companies. Was that a difficult thing to go through?
It is, since that's not really, I don't know how to do that. You'd think I would know how to after all this time, but I relied really heavily on Jeff Travis, who you know, gave me the money to make the record in the first place, and then shopped it for me. He sent it around to the different labels, and you know, you have meetings with them, and they tell you how much they love you, and then they never talk to you again. So it's kind of a little bit, you know, disillusioning, but ultimately for me, I just wanted somebody to really like it and to be excited about it and want to work it. And Rykodisc came to me exactly like that, and didn't want to change anything, and just said, hey, let's go, let's put this record out. And that was what I was looking for. I didn't, you know, my earlier situation, I felt like my record company was unhappy with me or with what they got. And I wanted the people to know exactly what they were getting into, and so they did.
Was there at any stage where you considered the possibility of perhaps putting it out yourself independently?
Definitely, that was an option. I felt if I didn't get the kind of deal that I wanted, then it would be more advantageous to me to release it myself and still own it and sell it out of the trunk of my car, you know, because you know, I didn't want to sign a terrible deal just to put the record out. You know, I could, you know, probably be better off doing it myself, but I didn't have to do that, thankfully.
Knowing what you know now and being through what you have been through, do you wish now perhaps that you would have gone with a smaller label right from the beginning, or do you think you needed that early experience with the majors anyway?
I'm grateful for that early experience. I'm really happy with the way that my life is and that my career is. I feel like my best work is always ahead of me. You know, I have that kind of enthusiasm, you know, to try and be better. And I mean, I bet if I had signed with a smaller label in the beginning, that I would have been able to nurture it a little better. And who knows what would have happened. But I might also not have gotten any attention at that stage, because maybe I wasn't, you know, remarkable enough. And it might not have been the encouragement that I needed to continue, you know?
Yeah. So
you can't really question how, or, you know, you would have changed it. I'm just kind of glad that it's happened at all, and that I have a career.
Now let's talk about this current album, What I Deserve. It must have been a great feeling of freedom going into the studio without that pressure of a record company over you. You would have more or less been able to do what you want to do?
Yeah, it was a very liberating feeling. There was also pressure because now I didn't have somebody that was directing me and putting boundaries around me. So I felt a little bit of all that. I felt like I was producing it myself, even though I had producers. It felt like because I didn't have any. It was still all my decision and my choice, and that freedom can be a little daunting. But so it got a little stressful sometimes. Every decision weighed very heavily on my mind. Each night I wouldn't go to sleep really. I'd lay in bed awake for hours worrying about it.
Mm.
So that was the trade-off. But ultimately I was just in love with the music and enjoyed making it. I really did enjoy making it.
I get the impression, would it be fair to say that this would be the record you've wanted to do all along?
Yeah, I think maybe it's the record I've been in training for, where I finally got to put all the things that I had learned over the years to get to work, I don't think I could have made this record when I was at MCA. I just didn't know enough yet, and I hadn't grown enough. I hadn't written enough songs at that stage. I wasn't really considering myself a songwriter back then. So this was just sort of the end result of all those years of learning.
How sure were you of the sound that you wanted for this record before you went into the studio, or did that more or less develop as you were in there?
I was pretty sure of the sound. I had it in my head, kind of a loose, warm, kind of sparse arrangement. But I do think that Chuck Prophet, his guitar playing and his approach made a big impact on the way the ultimate way that the whole record ended up feeling. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very grateful to him that he was there.
You do seem to have quite a knack of picking just the right musicians for your albums all the way through, and there were some great players on this one. What do you look for in a musician to make them one that you'd want to work with? Is there any special quality there?
Oh, I just like people who are who seem really original and creative, and who are. I like players that are real loose, that will embrace a mistake and sort of somehow incorporate it into the song. And so I've like my entire the self-titled record I had, the band on there is pretty much Kevin Welch's band. I just kind of stole them from him. I'd seen him play and I'd heard his records and I knew what they were like. And they weren't. Right now they're all like huge Nashville session players, but back when they were playing with Kevin, they were kind of just getting their start. With either playing with Kevin or on their own or something. They weren't as the big hotshot people that everyone uses now. So they were kind of on the edge. I kind of like to use people who are not real commonplace.
You also have a knack of doing is choosing some great songs by other writers to interpret. What criteria do you use there?
Oh, I just, I pick songs that move me in some way that I feel really personal about. Or if it's like a cover, not just a song that somebody else wrote that hasn't ever been heard before. If it's a cover, I like it to be something that I feel my singing it or playing it will sound different than the way they did it. If it's just like it was a male point of view, a man singing it, and then hearing a woman singing it will automatically shift it a little bit. And if it's like a real pop song and I do it in a country-ish way, then I feel like that makes you see it in a different light. Mostly it's just something that I think is going to be fun for me to play and hear the song reveal itself differently.
Tell me, what do you think of the whole Nashville scene from the eyes of someone, I guess, who has had contact with it but has chosen to base yourself somewhere else?
Well, I think Nashville, it's kind of frightening. I think that it's a monster that got created that nobody has control over anymore. I think there are a lot of really great people who work in that town and who are trying to make good music and have integrity and all that. But I think that it's a bit of a monster because it is a business, and it's kind of turned into a pop kind of teen idol thing where they create stars there instead of kind of nurture music and artists. They can just create stars. And I think that so many people are really trying hard to nurture good music, but it just doesn't seem to work with the machinery. It's just the monster will spits them out. So I don't know. It's hard. I had a really hard time being there. It always made me feel bad. Just I felt like, God, there must be something wrong with me. So I kind of had to get out of there.
What about the music scene there where you are in Austin? How's that standing these days?
Oh, it's still thriving. It's a wonderful music town here. The thing that really helps it is there are 1 million clubs, and it's a college town, so there's always an audience. And so every night of the week there's somebody great playing somewhere. And I think also because there are so many places to play, it's not a very competitive town. Everyone's real supportive of each other and glad to see each other do well because there's room for everyone, but nobody feels threatened. But we do all feel encouraged by each other. If somebody is out there doing something wonderful, you feel proud of them and you feel like it makes you want to try and be that good. So I love it here.
There's a real refreshing sense of community there amongst the musicians.
There really is.
Yeah. Now, one thing you've dabbled in also is film. You're in you're part of the Bob Roberts movie, and a couple of other things as well. Is there any ambitions to continue on with that?
I would love to do anything that came my way. I'm probably not capable of doing like a real big role, but it's a fun diversion. It's a fun thing to do. I would never devote myself to it, full time because that's just not where my passion or my talent lies. But it is a fun thing to get to do, and anytime anyone offers me something, I'd give it a shot. But nothing's really come along lately.
How does performing for a camera compare to a live audience?
Oh, it is really different. They're both terrifying in different ways. But with a live audience, you feel like you can. I can talk to the audience, and I can get to know them, and we can become friends. But with a camera, if you do something dumb, you can't you can't explain yourself and have everyone laugh,
Yeah.
It's just there on film, and everyone at home watching is going to get their own, make their own, judgments. So it's different in that way, I guess.
Yeah, you've got some fans in high places. I believe the president's a bit of a fan.
Well, I don't know if he's a fan or if it's his staff or, the people that put together fundraisers for him or what, but somebody over there has called a couple of times to get me to do shows. And so that's very flattering. Because I'm a fan of President Clinton's, I think, so it's a proud thing, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about your upcoming trip down here. Are you playing solo, or are you bringing a band down with you?
Well, actually, I'm going to sit in with the Feral Swing Cats.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to play with me on one show somewhere, maybe 2 shows, I'm not sure. And my husband, Bruce Robison, who's a recording artist for Sony Records, is going to come, and we'll probably do solo shows where we play with each other and trade songs or something like that. Mm-hmm. We haven't quite gotten it figured out, but I'm sure we will by the time we get there, so not to worry.
How do you enjoy the touring process? Is that something you get used to over time?
Yeah, I really love getting to go see the world. It's like being in the Army, but you don't have to work out so much, You just get to see everything. And sometimes you don't get to see as much as you'd like to, but it's a really interesting way of life. There have been times where I've been, unhappy with it, where I just wanted to be at home, and, I'd start to get real teary about it. But overall, I just feel that it's a really different way to live, and it's a fun thing that I'm doing. I'm going out and I'm playing music, so it's an adventure, and I enjoy it a lot.
Are you able to combine songwriting and touring? Do you manage to get time to sit down and write when you're on the road, or is that something you need to be home and settled for?
I don't usually write when I'm touring, mostly because I'm just worrying about all the details of the show, and I can't, rest my mind enough to start thinking about creating new music. So it's usually when I'm home or if I'm traveling for some other reason.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm alone in a hotel room, but I'm not playing anywhere. But if I have that downtime and I'm somewhere where I don't have anything to do, then I'll start to write.
How do you think your studio skills, your recording skills have changed since the day you began recording?
Oh, I guess I'm not as intimidated by the studio anymore. And I feel a little more confident when I'm in there. And I also feel like I'm not afraid to speak up and direct the whole show. I think when I first started out, I just would sit back and let somebody else do that because I didn't know, and I thought everybody would think I was stupid. You know, now I don't feel that way, so I guess I just have more control over it.
Yeah. And just before we finish up, what are your plans after you leave us here in Australia?
Oh, I'm going to come home, and in February I'm going to do about 6 dates with George Jones here in the west coast of the States, and then just continue doing more dates around Texas. And in March I'm actually going to go to Holland and maybe do about 2 weeks in Europe. And then after that, hopefully I'll start working on my next record.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, Kelly, well, I won't hold you up any more time. Thank you very much for speaking with me today.
Well, thank you very much.
We look forward to catching up with you down here in January. In Melbourne, you're playing at the Continental, which is a fantastic room. It's a real music lovers venue, so you'll get an enthusiastic audience there for sure.
Well, I can't wait to just come and see Australia. I'm so excited.
Oh, we're looking forward to seeing you too.
Thanks.
Take care. Have a wonderful Christmas, and we shall see you in the new year.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.